Hello, Inspi family. Welcome to another episode of the Inspi Words podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ndaba, and today we have a very, very special guest. Is a friend of mine, Nzuzo Sikhakhane, Pastor Nzuzo Sikhakhane. This guy is a pastor, is a friend of mine. For me, it's still even hard to be like Pastor Sikhakhane because he's a friend to me, he's a brother, and I really, really appreciate that he has come here today, and we are talking particularly about bouncing back from failure, because a lot of the time you find that people at the end of the year, they are reflecting on their goals, they are reflecting on the resolutions that they started the year with, and they realize, some of them, that they haven't really achieved that. And now it's the new year, you are starting again, you're wondering if you should even set up goals because, well, it didn't work last year. But we want to just encourage you and help you bounce back from that experience of failure. Welcome to the Inspi Words podcast, Fundisi.
Thank you, Dr. Mto. Thank you, Nick.
We are at a time where people right now, as we are recording it, are sort of reflecting on their goals and their dreams, how far they went with, their New Year's resolutions. Some of us wanted to lose weight, but it seemed like we did the opposite,
Yeah.
So people are reflecting on that. They're looking back. Others wanted to start businesses, and others wanted to study.
Yeah.
Others actually went to school and registered,
Sure.
and they studied. But not all of us achieved those goals. It's not something funny, but it's true. I myself, for one, I wanted, in the beginning of the year, I knew that, when you get married, there's a trend, you gain weight. So I wanted to, go to gym, stick to it, make sure that I maintain my weight. But I couldn't. I gave up along the way. I feel like I failed.
Yeah, I see.
And then there's other people that wanted to do other things,
Yeah.
and they failed. And this is why I want us to talk about this in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
How do we deal with the issue of the experiences of failure?
Yeah.
But before we get to that question of
Sure.
how do we bounce back after experiencing failure, how do we get back up again,
Yeah.
and continue pursuing our dreams and try again, I want you to just talk a bit about your own experiences, because I feel like it makes it more relatable, whatever we're going to talk about, when you can share your own experiences of failure.
No, that's true. I think my first failure was in my studies. Yeah.
Adversity, ne?
Adversity. Yo. Electrical engineering was working on me. So it was really pushing me to the edge. Yeah. So as you know, electrical engineering degree is a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
But I literally took 6 years to finish it. So it was N+2.
Yo.
Yeah. So that's why I really experienced failure. I think I started failing in second year, where we started to drill into core courses. There's a course called Signals and Systems.
Yo, I know that one,
So
It deals with people, eh?
yeah, Signal and Systems 1 and 2. Those, they really dealt with me. And then the other course was Data Structures and Algorithms, which is more on the programming side, and also software development. So those courses, they dealt with me. That's why I really felt with, okay. Personally, I was not used to fail. Even at high school, I was an A student. Even my post-high school studies, even in the military, I used to ace the courses. But when I got to vet, I used to think, is this me? Have you failed to a point where you think, really, is this me who is failing? Who must run around to write a sub and fail again after writing a sub?
Yo.
So, that's why I started to experience it a lot.
I had a similar experience because Actually, in fact, that's where we met in the engineering class.
Yeah.
As people who have read my books will know that I started in engineering.
Sure.
As an electrical engineering student.
Yeah.
And I love to share the story, especially when I speak to students, that my first experience of failure was at vets.
Yes.
In high school, I was a top student in my class. I was always number one in the top 10 for my class. I was number one for the whole school, even at matric.
Yeah.
I did well, And when I got to vets, my first test in mechanics was a mechanics test. You know those spot
Yeah,
tests?
those sport was the Friday ones.
Yeah, the Friday ones.
There by physics building.
Yes, first ever test, bruh. First ever test
Yo.
at university. I came in with distinctions, bruh. First ever test at vet. I got a 0, bruh.
Not humbled.
0, 0, 0.
Yo.
Something that had never happened to me.
Yeah.
And that really chowed me.
Yo.
And I think it also just opened my mind to the kind of demands that university places on the students. I
Sure.
think a lot of us in high school we just go through
Cruised.
because it's easy. You can study for the test the day before.
Yeah, and then
You can still ace it, which is not the case when it comes to
gets
university.
tertiary, yeah.
It becomes a whole different story. I love to say that it's called higher education for a purpose
Where
because the workload is high.
Yo, the stress.
The stress levels are high. The demands are high. The expectations are high. Because there you pass with 50% at least. Which is not the same as what happens in high school.
True.
But so I think that's very important. That experience of fail. How did you deal with that? What was the impact of it?
Look, man, it really chowed me. And to some point, I started to hear some voices on the side. When you fail, you share, even with your parents and other people. Hey, no, I failed. They would be, you? I'm like, yes, it's me. Yeah, so, but, even at home, they used to say, when are you finishing Gant?
Yo.
You see all those voices to come in to further degrade your self-esteem. And I remember my sister used to say, you know what, just change this engineering thing, do something else so that you can graduate easily. Another friend of mine that we're with in the military was even saying, you know what, I found a post in the Hawks. Just leave this thing of varsity, go and join
work for the Hawks.
and work for the Hawks and carry on with the tactical stuff. you know? But I was like, no, I have to finish what I've started. All these opportunities that are coming, they were coming from a good faith. But to me, I think they were a distraction. They were just amplifying the enthusiasm to quit. But no, I said, I'm just going to carry on. But personally, it did impact me because I knew, I understood myself as this person who always pass. But, I got impacted in my self-esteem because I felt like, no, this is not me. And, you get that part to say, I must just as well give up. But that's not always a good voice to listen to.
So you are talking, Ncegu, about finishing what you started.
Yeah.
I think I might have a different view on that.
Yes. Because of, I know why.
No, please elaborate on that. What do you mean by this whole idea of finishing what you started?
Yeah. No, by finishing what you started, I'm trying to say, when you start a journey, you must always know at some point it's going to be hard. Don't just expect, the cruising. There are, great moments where like, great, I've passed and so on. But what I'm trying to say, don't just easily quit because it's hard. That's why you find, even from the academia, you find a student in 3 years, there's no solid degree that you can say this person is doing. He started at art, he went to mining, he went to education, he's back to mining again. So you find that you might end up wasting time jumping around faculties, trying to find your footing. So that's why I think
But I also believe you could actually waste time trying to finish what you started when what you started is not really working.
Yeah.
I think there are instances where holding on does more damage than,
Then no, it's
letting
true.
go. And
That's true.
I think a lot of people struggle with that. You find that they are done with the engineering degree, but they hate engineering
Yeah,
with
with
their
their
whole
whole
heart.
heart.
And because they have this thing of finishing what you started.
Sure.
Well, it can be a principle that one lives by.
Sure.
And as you know, I'm not that kind of a person who's gonna say, even when I see Guti, this is not
Yeah.
working for me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold on and push and say, you know, I'm gonna continue with this.
Yeah.
That's why I changed, because when I got in, I was a science student in high school. I got into engineering at
Yes.
VEDS, but when I got in, I realized, good, this is not really for me.
Yeah.
And I decided I'm going to change the following year, and I changed to social work. And I think that one decision is one of the things that really
Sure.
has made me who I am. I can't imagine how my life would be if I
Yeah.
was an engineer.
Yes. No, man. By no ways. I mean, by no means I can dispute that possibility. Like looking at your case start, I think you're one person I always say, you know what, Mto? I thank God you changed. When I look at you and look at your life, how you have, you switched from engineering and went to the stream that you took. So, but I think what I can try to say is that by saying you finish what you have started, we are not necessarily meaning that even if you see that, this is actually more is making more damage than what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like when you enter varsity, sometimes you just enter because you were accepted. You had a high APS that got you into a stream. But when you're inside, you realize, actually, this is not my thing. This is not my passion. Feel free to change, But I think that's where mentorship comes in, where you need someone to help you look, engage, so that you don't just jump because it's pressure. You are jumping because really that stream that you took is not aligned to your purpose. Especially engineering, most A students got in there because they had bursaries. And probably there's a guaranteed job offer.
Yo.
So but when you are in it, you realize that hey, it's
not for me,
It's
this
not
one.
make sure if this person is for engineering or not.
Yeah.
But that's where mentorship comes in, where you're gonna seek mentorship, seek guidance to say, you know what, I think I can change. If I change, this is what I'm gonna change to because of what A, B, C, and D. So that's also a possibility. But as for my case, I always knew that I would be an engineer from a young age.
Yeah.
And I loved engineering. Even though it was hard, I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, even in person, I'm a hands-on person. I started connecting stuff at my very early childhood. So I appreciated the stuff, but I still failed. That's why some professors will tell you upfront, this is not an appreciation course. You need to pass. So, I will dwell more on, I think that's maybe one of the things that made me fail, because I'll be focusing and enjoying the stuff and not actually paying attention on what is going to be assessed and what is going to make me move from certain level to another level, of which is one of the mistakes that we need to be very careful on. Don't enjoy a lot and say, yeah, I appreciate this concept. But what is in the course brief? What's going to come up? Focus on that.
Yeah.
You
I remember when I was in first year, one of the things that was said to us on the very first day, on the very first lecture in I think was electronics,
Yes.
LN 1000.
LN 1000.
I'm not gonna say who the professor was.
Same here, I won't mention names.
He's like, look at your neighbor and look at your other neighbor.
Yeah.
One of you is not gonna be here next bruh, like that was so traumatic, bruh. It's like they expect us to fail.
Yo, that professor was pushing us.
Sure.
He will ask you, why have you not deregistered?
Imagine.
What kind of a motivation is that?
It's like they took pride when
people are failing.
in seeing people failing their causes.
Yeah.
Sure. But what other experiences of failure can you share? Outside, the academic space.
Look, man, beside academics, I failed in relationships. And also
Haven't we
in
all failed in
business.
that? Yeah.
In business, I
Talk,
also
talk a bit
failed.
more about
So
that.
yeah, it's not only academia. There are
Yeah.
other areas.
Sure.
Yeah.
Talk a bit more about that. I like the relationship part because
Yo.
in one of the last few episodes, I was talking to your wife
Yeah.
about relationships, and I just want maybe some bit of depth in terms of your experience. What happened? You don't have to mention people's names, please.
Yo, no, it's tough, man. Yeah, relationships, as my wife would say, there's no formula there.
Yeah, true.
I will quote her on her words. There's no formula for relationships. So yeah, man, I think 2 or 3 relationships that I thought this is
Yeah,
it did not work. Then
sure.
I was heartbroken and I was like, is there something wrong with me?
Yo.
And eventually I was like, no, I need to man up and stand. But everyone listening out there, there are possibilities of failure in relationship. You know, even if you are sure and say this is it, maybe you have even received a vision and a dream, a confirmation, and you still fail.
Explain,
So
explain, Ncego.
that is very possible.
That's the part I fail to understand.
Yeah.
There are people that would say, "No, me, I prayed about this.
Mm-hmm.
I heard God saying this is it."
Yeah.
Like, how do relationships like that fail?
Yeah.
Even when you have had so many confirmations,
Yeah.
as we often say.
Yeah. No, I think I'll share one case that I won't mention the
Yeah,
names of
please.
people, where I actually dreamed of this lady as she's the one. And when she came, she also said, yeah, actually somebody was telling me about you.
Yo,
So it was kind of a confirmation. And I was like, yes, we are in it. This is it.
yo.
It's confirmed from both sides. So it means really this is going to work. Then we're carrying on. And then there were challenges. And someone will ask now and say, okay, was God lying or what happened now? Because
Was it even
both
God?
of you, was it even God, or you guys were having crashes on each other? And now when you woke up, you said, no, there are visions and confirmations, you know. But
Sure.
still, that relationship didn't work.
Interesting.
You see, but someone will say, now can we? For sure, God can speak, and it can come to pass, and the relationship can work. And at times you can maybe to find that I truly heard from God, but it didn't work. So that's why I'm saying there's no formula, and I'm not saying don't trust God. God can really point you towards the right direction. But what I realized when I Dr. Mto is that as much as there has been a prophecy or a vision, it still depends on both of you making it work.
Yeah.
You know, there are things that God can do for you, and there are things that God cannot do, especially the ones He wants you to do.
Yes,
God
yeah.
is not gonna do.
You have to work.
You
on
have,
it.
you see. So it eventually needs 2 people to be committed to it. Even if there was a vision or no vision, there needs to be 2 people. So I think that's where, in my case, it took
So,
the detour.
I'm also interested in exploring with you what was the impact of that, because I think from my own experience,
Yeah.
I think failed relationships are one of the things that have really hurt
Yeah.
me the most.
Sure.
Like, I can see failing at school and struggling with
Yeah, but
stuff. I can see a business that I started that failed, but relationships are the ones that caused the greatest damage in my
Yeah.
whole entire life.
Yeah.
And I want to explore what was
The impact.
impact on your side.
I'm telling you, my brother, I stopped praying. I think I was angry with God. I was like, you know what?
Sure.
This is it, you know. Because some people will say, and I think that's where I was. I'm praying, I'm serving God. I do A, B, C, and D. You know, I'm not a person who's reckless or jumping up and down. I just want to do things right.
Yeah.
But why am I failing? So, you know, that's another point of failure, because some people are saying, you know what, I'm a born again believer. I'm living a holy life. And sometimes we tend to think because we are living a holy life and now we are excused.
Sure.
from failures.
It's like that thing, it's like, God, you owe me this
Oh, you owe me this. I think God wanted to fix that part in me to say, you is not by your works.
Sure.
You understand? So I call it entitlement.
Yeah.
Because I evangelize, I have new seed. We go from village to village. We're winning souls.
So God must just make it
God must
happen.
make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's entitlement that I think failure is actually a weapon that usually helps in dealing with it to align your mind. We need to refrain from that, excuse me, to entitlement, especially as believers. Because we think now, because we are born again and, we are excused from all these trials and tribulations. But they are necessary to build us,
Yeah, ne?
because as I'm saying, I stopped praying. I was like, God, I'm just going to be an evangelist. I'm going to be Paul of the 21st century. And I'm not going to get married and so on.
Sure.
Then that's how it impacted me. I would, stop at completely. But I think the Spirit of God in me spoke to me again, say, man, you cannot, because who you get married to is very, very important. So even if you have failed, you cannot afford to neglect it and just let it go because you have failed 2 times, 3 times or more. It doesn't matter how many times you failed, but you need to get that right. So I got to my knees again. I said, Lord, I'm going to pray. Began to declare again, I'm someone's husband, even though I didn't know who that someone is. I started saving for the baller before I knew who I was going to get married to. There's a level of commitment. And I think I got revived to that level to say, I will.
I want to go back to that experience you shared earlier.
Yeah.
When you were talking about failing, you repeated twice. You failed in second year and you failed
Again in third year.
in third year.
Yes.
What were some of the factors that you feel like contributed to that?
Okay. Some of the factors is negligent. I think I was negligent on my side. So, because I think one remedy to deal with failure is to look in yourself, because sometimes when people fail, they are likely to point fingers. It's Mtobis, it's A, B, C, and D. VET is not fair. Okay, I'm not advocating for VET, but you will find with most of the things deep is in you. Even at campus minutes, I was too involved. I was
Sure.
all over. Interstation will find me, mission will find me, and I was not focusing my time in my studies. Remember what they used to say? You have VET students before you are a CAF member.
Yes.
That's very, very important,
Yeah.
because you are flourishing in your spiritual life and you are doing very bad in your academic life. And I don't think God is glorified by that.
Sure.
So I had to look deep down in myself. I think there was a series that came out, a very nice series called 24. You were watching that series like no one's business.
Yeah.
It was so attractive with my friends, Abon Pendulo and Kos. They were actually the ones who say, hey, the new episode is released. I'll go to the lab, study, but it was not enough. It was not sufficient. And then that's where I did not manage my time properly.
Yeah, ne?
Time management is very, very important. I also think I didn't have, proper coaching, because that course is hard. You can ask any electrical engineering student who went through signal and system and software. You need a lot of practice. You need a lot of, of focus doing your tutorials. I was behind even in my tutorials. And when exam came, I was just under pressure trying to chow everything at once, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
There were other external factors that I cannot, but what I'm trying to say, always look at you. What is it that I can do right to be? I actually lost a sponsor for that year. That's another
That's
impact.
hard.
But luckily I applied for NSFAS. I had to come back using NSFAS.
So you are talking about looking inside, looking at yourself. What is your contribution? What do you think is the things we do as people that contributes to our own failure, be it in our academics, be it, in relationships, in even in our pursuit of God's purpose in our lives?
Yeah.
how do we sabotage ourselves? How do we contribute to our own failures? Because I think it's important what you're saying.
Yeah.
That a lot of the time, as people, we tend to look at external factors. No, the system is against us.
Yeah.
I didn't have funding. I didn't have this
Yeah.
or that. Which, in some cases, those are real factors that actually affect whether you're able to progress or not.
Yeah.
But there are also things that you do as that we do as people that contribute to our own failures. What are some of those things in your view?
Yeah. No, I think for me it starts with understanding your role. What is my role in this? You understand? And then what's expected from you is very, very important to know what is expected from you. So sometimes there's a mismatch between what's ideal and what is real. Because when you come, we're like, okay, this is it. Ideally, this is what's going to happen. But when you go down to reality, you find that on the ground is not what is happening. So we need to be able to adapt.
Okay.
We
Please
need-
elaborate on that.
By adapting, I mean, if you see, like we used to have evening classes. I hate evening classes. I hate those tats in the afternoon. Not that I was banking, I would be there like present in physical, but my mind and my focus won't be there. That's a reality I had to face. But you know what? I don't like evening classes, but for me to make through, I need to adapt and change and put my maximum attention. Because actually, for this, because I was saying, that's where you get most of the truth. Because in class, everyone is flying. We need to align ideally what's ideal and what's real so that we are able to get to real stuff.
How do you make that alignment?
Okay, it's just adjustment in your behaviors. Like I'm saying, in the evening, I had my own routine. I know I'm from school. After school, I'll go gym. From there, I go to dining hall. I sleep. I'll wake up around 12 or midnight and start again. But you find that my hours of where I think I'm active, I don't have support during those hours. The productivity is going to be less. You can't be calling someone at once, say, "Hey, I'm struggling with Fourier transform." But I need to be active between that slot, between 4:30. I need to know I'm asking the right question, the relevant questions, because post this, I won't have access to the resources, to the support that is supposed to help me to understand this course even better. So that's just one example, but we need to adapt.
Yeah, so
As we are saying, when you are from school, it's something else. When you get the reality, when you get to varsity, it's something else. That requires a lot of transformation in how you behave, how you absorb, and you get the material into your head so that you are able to retain it. So it requires a lot of transformation.
What else? So you've spoken about that one of the contributing factors, how we contribute to our own failures, is
Yeah.
not adapting.
Yeah.
And not looking at what is real and what is
Ideal. Yes.
and adjusting our understanding of that. So what else? Because that's just one example, as you said.
Yeah. Okay. The other element that you need to look at is the issue of resources. I know it's linked to what I've said. You find good in their support programs. I used to ignore those.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
is it AD, what do they call them? Academic development,
I'm
what
forgetting the acronyms.
ADP classes? Yes.
Yeah, I used to, not use those. And the other part that we need to look at is it's very important what we hear. Already when we started the course, there was a lot of negativity.
Yes.
People are saying, this course, we are definitely going to fail. And you consume that, you put it in your head, and you are going to fail. If you begin to believe that you are going to fail, and you will fail. Looking at the trend, at the history of the course, I'm telling you, people will tell you there's no way you will do it once, you have to do it twice. I think I started to put that in my head as well. I'm going to fail anyway. So already you are doing something, and already in your mind, you are telling yourself,
You've already failed.
I'm going to fail anyway. And you are going to fail.
Sure.
So try and block this negativity that comes to your ears, even if it is not like even in life in general. Negativity can really corrupt and disrelate your momentum. So it's very, very important. Even from high school level, people will tell you maths is hard. Even
Yeah.
a person has a skill to pass maths, but because we're told at grade 11 that, maths is hard, and then you are going with that mentality.
Vele
So
izokushaya
it's
vele.
gonna contribute a lot to your failure because already you are defeated before the battle starts.
So it's that thing of what you believe, hey?
Yeah.
In my first book, Incubating Excellence, one of the things I said there was we don't start excelling when we get the results. We
True.
start excelling the day we believe that we can.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true. And the other part that maybe most people don't like is the issue of hard work. Okay, they'll say work smart and it's fine. We appreciate that if you can do. But there's a lot of hard work that you need to put in achieving certain goals. Clearly some sleeping hours you have to cut. And it's exhausting. You know. If you are an enemy of hard work, then
You'll be jowed.
you will be chowed.
So I wanna bring it to your own experience at work. I know you also mentor some young engineers that want to get into that registration with what is the body.
Engineering Council of South
Yes,
Africa. Yes.
to get them registered with the engineering council. You
Yes.
sort of help them go through that.
True.
Please talk a bit about that and what are some of your observations in terms of how we sabotage ourselves in that kind of context?
Okay, for instance, with X, and it's something that I also realized when I was getting registered.
Yeah.
We don't actually understand what's expected.
Yo.
Yeah. And when I was involved in the process of registration, I realized, good, this is not rocket science. Because now I literally had to go from outcome 1 to outcome level to know good outcome 1 requires A, B, C, and D. And these things, I think I was doing it the wrong way. You don't have to understand when you are about to submit that this is actually what was required. So my advice is that get these outcomes early, read and understand what's expected, and it will be so easy for you to register. Because all these outcomes, when I was doing it, I realized this is actually what is my daily work. You know, it's my daily work, and that's going to help you to be able to document it properly. So with some of the excess students that I've mentored, you find that even when they are writing their reports and or the period, they are all over the show. And it emanates from lack of understanding with what is required. In especially with the registration and actually in all spheres, spend time in understanding what is required so that when you fire, you don't shoot a miss.
Let's take it now to the general stuff. As I said in the beginning, that a lot of us start the year with all of these resolutions.
Yeah.
I wanna start saving more, and
We even have targets.
yes, I wanna save this much, 100,000 rands by the end of the year.
Yeah.
I wanna lose weight. That's like a big one that a lot of people start with.
Yeah.
So they start going to gym, getting gym subscriptions and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then others would have, I wanna, grow more in terms
In
of
faith
things
or in my
of the
spirit.
spirit. Yes,
Sure.
I wanna grow in faith. I wanna know God more, and I wanna start reading the Bible more. Some of them even start with like, reading Bible reading plans in the
Yes.
beginning of the year. So those kinds of goals,
Yeah.
that are not necessarily about our careers or anything like that, but they're about our own personal development and personal
Growth.
betterment. What do you think is the contributing factor that we are missing, that makes us to always, maybe by the time it's June, we've already
Yeah, way
forgotten
far.
that this was the goal.
Yeah, I think the first part is setting unrealistic targets. After setting those targets, ask yourself, is this realistic? Can I achieve
Yeah.
this? Then you are able to go back and perhaps refine these targets. So that's part 1. Part 2 is actually tracking these targets, if you are still in line or not. Okay, I'll call it continuous assessment to say, okay, by this time I said I will save 10,000 rand. in 6 months' time? How far am I now? Am I winning? And that's going to help you to readjust your target. If you realize that my targets were too optimistic, then that's a time you can say, okay, maybe let me revise this, because in reality, there's no way I can be able to achieve this. So that's very important. But in general, as we are saying, I think some of the things, whether it's saving, whether it's reshaping your health or reshaping your spiritual life, they cannot be done at a chunk towards the end. Like in December, you realize, whoa, I'm too far, let me, and then you are not going to win. I think the secret is to work on it on an incremental level. You know, you have your daily target. So if you have a target, break it down. I have my daily target. For instance, gym. Tell yourself, okay, I can go to gym 3 days a week.
Yeah.
That, okay, I always share with friends. I don't go to gym 7 days a week. I told myself I'm going to go 3 days, skip a day and go, skip a day and go. And it's working for me, because I know if I will go from Monday to Sunday, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So just be realistic. If it's prayer, tell yourself, okay, I'm going to read this book and this book in a week. I know some people will say, no, you have to read it daily. That's where you want to go, but maybe you are not there yet. So that you don't discourage yourself when you see yourself not meeting targets. Set, okay, let me say, bite what you can chew. Maybe
Oh, that's
that will
deep.
bring it home. Bite
That's
what you
deep.
can chew. Don't bite something that's going to choke you, because
Sure.
probably you will choke and die. That's exaggeration.
Yeah, my pastor, my late pastor Hlope,
Yeah,
used to say that dream big, start small, start now.
true.
I think that's the key. That's what I'm picking up in what you're saying. That
True.
your dreams must, your goals, your targets must be realistic. But how do I determine what is realistic for me? Because one of the things I have come to appreciate is that as people, we have different capacities.
Yes.
For example, I can't compare myself to you.
True.
Even when it comes to gym, for example.
True.
You would lift 60 kgs or however many
Yeah.
you lift. But I can't do that.
Yeah.
Because my capacity and what I'm able to bear is not the same as you.
True.
So how do I determine what is realistic for me? What are the things that I need to look for?
Okay, I think that's some part of it, has some element of self-introspection, because, for instance, with finances, you want to save 100K in a year. I'm making an example. And you know very well that your salary, maybe you earn, let me say 20K, and then you know that 80% of that goes towards your bills.
Yeah.
So look at 100K, look what you can earn, how much can you save, how much goes to your bills per month, and check, is this realistic? So there's self-awareness. It's very, very important. Be aware of your level, to say, okay, I'm aware, this is what, and if you can't do it yourself, if you can, just consult maybe some financial advisors who's going to look at your finances and say, okay, cut here, cut there, and that's when you're going to be able to achieve your target. So let's use those external helps if you can. You can even go online and Google something on how you can set your goals on finances. Maybe there's a spreadsheet somewhere where you can just profile all your incomes, debts, whatever bills you pay, and you'll be able to come to a certain level of arrangement with self to say this is feasible.
I was reading what you're saying now. It reminds me of something I read in a book written by Fulu. It's titled "Mind Your Sense." She is actually, I think, for people who want to save, I would recommend the book because it sort of helps you with like systems and formulas. It's not telling you how much you should save, but it helps you with the kind of system you can use that would be suitable for people with different levels of income. And it uses percentages rather than actual numbers to say, I think that's also something that people can consider. But at the same time, I'm also thinking about how things like comparison
Yeah.
How as young people we have a tendency to compare ourselves with our peers. We have a group of friends,
Yeah.
and of course we
Have
might
same
not be in the
realities.
same jobs, even if we are in the same jobs, but we don't have the same realities.
Yeah.
Some people have to send money home, some people don't have to send money home. Some people started already on a,
Yeah.
a comfortable
At some baseline.
yes,
Higher.
please. Where now you have to start from scratch.
Yo.
How do we deal with that? Because I think that's also another thing that contributes to us failing. When we set our goals, we set them. We might set them in relation to how other people are setting their goals,
True.
but we have different realities. How do we?
Look, man, I think it's a attribute that one needs to be content. And if you are content, you can deal with a lot of competition related issues. Because some other guy was just telling that don't be a copy, because you find that you are a copy of a copy of a copy. And the copy, as time goes, it loses quality.
Yes, it loses resolution.
It loses resolution. So I think that's very, very important to know yourself. One other conversation we had with my close friend was the issue of cars, which you know what?
Yeah.
I know these guys how much we earn because they're in the same grade, but that one is driving a Range Rover. I can assure you that if he's just surviving on this salary, he's not making it. So don't be driven by competition, because the reality is gonna face you alone at home when you are by yourself, when you have to pay those bills. Some people even end up getting into credit cards, loans, and it just perpetuates the situation. And it ends up even affecting your mental health,
True.
because now we are stressed month end. You have this high profile of a particular, maybe an engineer like myself. You want to live up to an engineer, but
yeah.
your balance sheet is actually feeding so many things that you struggle to even get petrol to go to work. But it also goes down to
Imagine not
introspect
having
yourself.
petrol driving a Range Rover.
It's very possible. So just sit down with yourself and don't compare, because as we are saying, you don't know what baseline that person had. Maybe his father gave him, a portion when he finished school. Maybe whatever source of income he has is starting from somewhere, and you are competing with that person. When you still have to go back to a village, fix a house. You are still,
Ish.
paying,
Send your siblings to school.
send sibling to school and so on. So
Yeah.
do a self-based, profile, and work according to that, not according to what other people have achieved or what they are doing, because it might really derail you, because your backgrounds are not the same,
Sure.
financially speaking.
Yeah, ne? So let's say again now it happens. Ncegu. I have set my goals. We spoke about the thing of setting realistic goals.
Yeah.
But for some reason I fail. How do I deal with that? You have had your own experiences of failure, and you can imagine what kind of impact that failure has.
Yeah.
In my own experience, for example, I think experiencing failure deals a lot with your self-esteem. One, it deals a lot with your self-efficacy, what you believe that you can do.
Yeah.
Because there is this thing that serves like evidence, you're good, but actually you're not as good as you think you are. You are not as smart as you think you are, which might not necessarily be true, because it could not be that you are not smart. It's just the
Yeah.
method that you use to do whatever it is that you were doing that didn't work. How do I deal with those? How do I bounce back from that experience of failure and try again? Because there are people right now, as we are recording this, people are reflecting.
Yeah.
But others will be like, I've just given up on losing weight because really
That's it.
I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I think, man, as we the key part of it is reflection. By reflection, I mean honest reflection. Even though I'm not saying ignore the external factors, look at what is it? What is it that I could have done better? in order to be able that I achieve my goals. After reflecting, you are able to come up with things that to say, okay, based on my reflection, what are my learnings? Because I believe that there is no experience that is wasted, even if you have failed. But that experience is not wasted. Because you know, okay, this is where I failed, this is how I can do better next time. And some of the things that we said, like business, and some goals are time based, you know, you find that your timing was not right. So those are some of the things that you have to check. Was my timing right? Sometimes your goals are not only involving you, they're involving a team. For instance, business. You rely on your production team to do certain things.
But
You find that this thing, it didn't work because my team was not coming to pass.
so talk about your experience in that.
Okay, my experience with business when I failed, it really impacted me because I was
Okay,
like,
let's start. What's the business?
okay, the
what
business I
happened?
was doing a bakery.
Yeah.
So we're just baking bread and scones and supplying them locally in the location.
Yeah.
Yes, the business I think it lasted for a year. It
Yeah.
was doing well. Okay, there were seasons.
Yeah.
Okay, the other part is that it was during COVID.
Yeah.
That's why the timing part comes in. Yeah,
Ah.
and it also helps to, especially in business, try and do a thorough business study, identify risks. That's very, very important. So I think I didn't spend much time on that. What are the risks? What might take me down in these things? But going back to the issue of trying to bounce back, now you have this case study where you have failed, especially in business. Look at your team as well. In engineering, they call it a root cause analysis, where you table down all the possible things that could have caused the business to fail. We call it a staircase analysis. You can Google some of these tools. They are
Yeah.
online that you can use. So where you narrow down to the actual root, you understand what made this fail. From my side, I think my team composition was not on par. Okay, I also didn't do the risk assessment. When I was producing the product, I actually found, there's so much competition in the area. I also didn't have a proper distribution strategy to distribute the product, even though you'll produce maybe to a certain level of quality, to find that you can't sell your product at the time that's required for you to make revenue. 3 days later, the product is actually expired. Probably
Ish.
you have to throw it away. So those are some of the things that you need to identify. With your team, you might find that my team needed training. You understand? And some of from safety all the way to the product, So those are some of the things that you can look at and identify and come up with action plans. How can I sort this out? And the issue of timing is also very, very important. Okay, mine happened around the pandemic, but some business are time-based. Don't just produce for the sake you can. Look at what are my peak times and capitalize on the peak times, and you regroup during your off-peak. So, yeah, I'll say if you can, maybe seek professional help. I know there are some people who coach
Can
people in
advise them.
business, which I didn't do. So I had to fail.
Do you intend on going back?
Okay, looking at the business itself is a good business. When I'm stable and regrouped, I don't have a problem because I actually done some courses on entrepreneurship. When I do this course, I'm like, this is where I was supposed to start actually. Sometimes we start with what we was supposed to be last.
True, true. You spoke about what you call root cause analysis.
Yes.
And I don't want us to just like fly over it as if
Yeah.
it's like everybody understands. Take us through maybe what are some of the steps that I can actually apply in my own experience. I tried out a business and it failed. I tried out a relationship and it failed.
Yeah.
I tried a course and I failed.
Yeah.
How do I get to what the root cause is?
Okay. Reflection is part of it, and it's just that now we don't have graphs and tables. I like writing down, but one is honest. You know, some people can do a root cause only to find that it's biased, and that root cause is not going to help you. By root cause, I mean you pointing to the root. What caused this? You understand?
Yeah.
Let's say I'm making an example. This house bent.
Yeah.
Then, okay, maybe it's a bad example. God forbid.
Okay.
So if that happens, we need to table down what are the possible causes. Because at the end, you want to get to one thing that caused the house to burn. So it's possible maybe someone was smoking and left a cigarette on the floor. And there must be realistic potential causes that could have caused. Okay, there was electric fault. We left the stove open. Maybe we went out and left the stove on. I'm just making as those are the three things, right? So they're on my baseline. I've put them on the floor. Those are three major things. Then from there, I say, and it's also based on the investigation. When you come, investigate, right? Then from there, I go to the next. That's why I was saying it's a staircase because you start with the range and then you narrow down. Then I go up. Okay, cigarette part, what could you have caused? Okay, it was next to a curtain. The curtain took fire. It's possible. And then I go to the issue of a stove. Okay, the pot was overheating and the fire started. That's the next one. So you ask yourself why? Until you zoom to the last thing. Okay, actually there was an electrical fault because the DB exploded. Maybe it's a bad example to make.
No, but it makes sense.
But you ask from your baseline, your base causes, you go to a next level. You ask, say why. Your response to the whys, you write them down again, and you say why. Usually they say up to 5 whys. You'll get to the root. Why 1, why 2, why 2, why 3, why 4, why 5. When you get to the last why, you get to your root.
So it's
Then your last block is like a block of the blocks that you are building up.
Yeah.
Your top ones, those are the ones. And the rest can be contributing factors. Because the contributing factor is not the root cause. It just contributed to your failures, but it's not actually what caused you to fail.
Sure.
So it's a very good technique for engineer. Even non-engineering investigations, you can use it, even at home.
I think it's
But
important.
you must be honest with yourself.
Because Ncegu, I think one of the things that we tend to do is that when we fail, we leave it and we move on.
Yeah.
Without really looking at what actually happened.
Yes.
Even with relationships,
True.
you find that you repeat the same thing. You might be thinking that the fault was on the other party, but you are actually the problem.
That's why I was, we were just having general conversation with my wife. You know what, baby? I so wish that how do I call it? A session. Post the breakup.
Sure.
Where we have an honest conversation with Ukel, Angel, with Nzuzo. Fix A, B, C, and D for your next relationship.
Yeah.
Honestly so. And then I do the same to her.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't carry the same mistake to the next relationship. I so wish we can have such, but usually after breakup, everyone is angry. I've deleted your numbers. I don't want to WhatsApp you, and that's it. But if we can have that, and that's growth, and it will take maturity, where we have genuine feedback between when a no kid or when a young lion.
Yeah.
Where they say, you know what, fix your anger.
You've got anger issues.
We have anger issues. Maybe they emanating from something. That's why we need now the root cause analysis.
So it's not the anger that's the problem here.
You find that it's where it's dating back. Maybe this person grew up from an abusive family and he thinks woman is something that you can just abuse and move on. There's a root. If you drill deep and you will find that root. And that's where the solution starts. To say, okay, how do we fix this? You find that a person is actually free from that. So that person will tell you have anger issues. Maybe you tell Ukel, you are impatient. That's where your problem is. If you can fix that, next relationship, you will flourish.
Because yeah, it's really, really important. And I like what you're saying, Guti. That's also where growth is.
That's a growth point.
I think for some of us, failure hurts us so much that we don't want to revisit what we failed on.
Yeah.
We don't want to look at those reasons. We don't want to find out why did we actually fail on this, because there are so many emotions
And
attached
the
to
fear of pain.
yeah.
Yeah.
There are so many emotions attached to this. There's a lot of pain that you experience. And also maybe the fear of what you might find out.
Yes.
The fact that it could be that you are the problem.
Yeah. And most of the time, you must be very mature to accept that I am the problem. I need to change.
Okay, I think let's wrap it up. It's been a long conversation, and I think there's a lot that I've also just um learned from this, especially that part about the root cause analysis and how important it is for us to go back. Even if I'm not going to try that business again,
Yeah.
but let me find out what was the root cause. Because then there's a
The
learning.
skill
from
might be
there.
applicable in your next business.
Exactly.
True.
There's an element of growth there. I'll become a better person in my next endeavor
True.
because I learned from the previous ones.
Yeah.
So that's very much important. There's somebody who has failed. There's somebody who has failed. They were looking back at their resolutions for 2023 and they're starting 2024 and they're wondering if they should even set goals for the year
Yeah.
because, well, it didn't work out for them last year.
Yeah.
What would your encouragement be?
There's this other guy I'm following. Yesterday, he was sharing on time as God's love language.
Sure.
I was like, okay, what is this guy saying? He says, time is God's love language. So, meaning that in life, sometimes when there's a delay, we should not always, condemn ourselves and say, yeah. There are some delays that happen in my life, even in relationship, where I was like, you know what, I think I was not matured. And thanks God that you loved me to give me time and another chance to be able to start again and look for the wife. So the word of God says, those that he loves, he rebukes.
Yeah.
So sometimes some delays is God exposing us so that we can gain a muscle to be resilient. So my encouragement to those goal setters who failed last year, don't give up. Just try and apply some of the things that we have said. Root causes, time your plan, a time schedule, how you're going to assess your goals, continuous assessment. Because for you to just catch them at the end of the year, probably is going to shock you. And then above all, be patient. I was just sharing with some believers that there's a verse I love, Romans 12:12. It says, be joyful in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be faithful in prayer. So meaning that some of the things, some of the processes, they just need our patience. Not that we are negligently patient, we are observing, as we've discussed, that some you even be able to check to say, you know what, this is not my thing. I need to jump to this direction. So that's very, very important. Lastly, do seek help, do seek counsel, do seek mentorship. Try and create mentorship or network around that sphere that you want to go in. If you want to venture into business, even myself, I want to venture into energy business. I'm already trying to build my network around those who are energy entrepreneurs in the energy sector because I'm new in the environment. So those are some of the practical steps that you can take.
Thank you very much. I think that's a good place to end this podcast, and I hope you really, really have listened and you enjoyed this episode. Until next time, give your dreams a chance.